Yo, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Optimize Your Body. Today, I am solo. Going to be dropping some gems down on how to build your abs, or how to at least have a, let's say, respectable midsection. Who does not want a good-looking waistline? Let's face it, it's easy on the eyes. It's a sign, above everything, is a sign of good health. And I'm going to run more through that when we come to it. But, you know, as I always say, it's all about health, man. Seriously, you put your health a priority, and you focus on feeling good, getting as healthy as you can, eating the right foods, doing all the simple things in life, getting enough sleep, blah, blah, blah. You're going to get that midsection. Okay, I know it sounds a bit woo-woo and a bit hippie-ish, but I'll give you more details now. And don't get me wrong, there's a hell of a lot that goes into it when it comes to, you know, building a respectable midsection, or, you know, lean looking, or let's just say washboard abs, as they call it. A few factors there which have a big impact on that. And I'll run through each and every one of those now to try and give you as much information as I can to help you reveal those abdominals. Anyways, I'm going to be changing the name of this podcast to Build Your Best Body, I think, because that's the name of my training program. And my webinar, which I'm going to be hosting soon, folks. So stay tuned for that. And if you can drop me, like, I don't know if any of you are kind of follow me on social media platforms. If you can drop me like a direct message on Instagram at Martin Silva Fitness. Silva is obviously spelled S-I-L-V-A. Drop me a direct message with your email address, and I'll keep you updated on my free webinar. And I'm going to be sending you out some free content then as well. Hopefully it'll be weekly as well, just free stuff, and really useful stuff as well, in order to get you in the best shape possible and fit and healthy. Anyways, who doesn't want good looking abdominals? And there's a lot of you listening now are like tuning in, because the reason I've kind of decided to drop this podcast on just specifically on abdominals, because the amount of requests and inquiries I get about how do I get abs? How do I get abs like yours? Or, you know, how do I get lean around the tummy? And obviously there's a lot of factors which come into that. Now, let's just say I'm gonna start off with, for argument's sake, I'm gonna target this one out there to all the beginners who maybe have just started training, or just thinking about, you know, starting their fitness campaign, or have maybe been training for some time and they're just looking to drop down stubborn body fat in order to reveal their abdominals, or wherever that may be. Stubborn body fat will be stored in different areas, right? So let's just talk about females. Okay, now with females, as I've said before, I've trained hundreds, if not over 1,000 people, I would say. And majority of them are women. I would go as far as to say about 70-80% women I've trained in my time. And they carry body fat in different areas. Now with women, obviously, with the reproductive side of it, and, you know, with the menstrual cycles, and, you know, obviously the body is just effectively designed to procreate, right? So, you know, women have like childbearing hips generally. So women will tend to, with the estrogen, some women are estrogen dominant, where the estrogen levels are slightly out of whack, and that can relate to other hormones which are not quite regulating properly. But what I'm getting at is, women will carry stubborn fat in different areas. Usually, just to break it down for you, it's legs, bums, and tum, right? So some women is around the thighs, the hips, the bum. Whereas other women, they generally don't seem to hold much around the hips and the thighs, but any stubborn fat will be stored around their stomach. Now, it does vary from person to person, but certain people do tend to, especially women, they tend to store it in I would say all in all, it's more about around the thighs and hips, but it can be just purely around the midsection for some women, and they don't have any problems with the lower half. Whereas with guys, stubborn fat is always going to be around the stomach first, and then around the lower back, and then what I've gathered is finally it'll be the moobs then, okay, the man boobs. So yeah, it's different areas for different people, but if you're a beginner listening to this and you're just starting out on your fitness campaign, you're like, right, I want to get abs. Now, be patient, okay? And try not to focus too much on it. Like I said, just try and enjoy the process. You're probably on a roll already, so you're probably already losing heaps of body fat, building muscle, and at least getting somewhere. But you should be feeling better above all. Now, it takes some time for some people to get abdominals, whereas for other people, it won't take long at all, and boom, their abs will be revealed. Now, let's just say the number one fact that I would like to mention is nutrition. Now, you don't need me to tell you that. In order to lose body fat and shift stubborn body fat, the most effective way to do it is over time. Now, I don't believe in these fads and short-term fixes, as you all know. I'm very straightforward, and I'll tell you straight up that it doesn't happen overnight. And if you want to sustain it for a lifetime, and you want to get abs for a lifetime, and keep your body fat down and keep looking good, keep feeling good for the rest of your life, and more importantly, obtain sustainable health, then you need to do it slowly, slow and steady. Slow and steady wins a race. Okay, so building muscle and nutrition, two most important elements when it comes to building your midsection. Now, if you're new to training, what I'm going to say is you need to give yourself a good solid, I would say, 9 months to a year of lifting weights consistently. Let's just say at least two or three purposeful weight training sessions a week in order to continuously keep building muscle. Now, at the start of your journey, if you've hired a good trainer or if you've done it properly, within the first, say, 4 to 8 weeks, you should have built a fair bit of muscle, a fair bit of good quality muscle. And then what I've observed is after that period of about 8 to 12 weeks, it tends to slow down a bit, becomes more incremental in terms of the muscle building process. But as I mentioned before, 1 pound, just 1 pound of lean muscle, which will be built pretty quick at the start of your journey, that will burn an extra 30 to 50 calories a day, obviously depending on the person, just to keep that muscle on your body. So an analogy I use, which I actually stole off the Mind Pump guys, like I do steal a lot of this stuff, Mind Pump Media podcast. Analogy I like to use is, what was it? Calories, right. So when you build muscle, it's expensive to keep muscle tissue on your body, and it's going to cost your body a lot of calories. Great analogy. So muscle tissue is expensive. It's going to cost you a lot of calories. Whereas let's just say fatty tissue is cheap as chips. Okay, it's dirt cheap. A pound of fat is going to burn 2 to 3 calories a day. It's useless when it comes to fat burning and elevating your metabolism. Obviously, it's body fat. So it's cheap. Muscle tissue is expensive to keep on your body. It's going to cost your body a lot of calories just to keep that muscle on your body. So if you really focus on building muscle, over time, let's just say over the 9 to 12 month period, you would have built a significant amount of muscle. Again, depending on the person. Certain people are blessed with godly muscle building genetics, right? And they will just build muscle like there's no tomorrow, and their shape will transform really fast. But generally, 9 to 12 months of building some good quality muscle, and what you'll notice then is the midsection will automatically, even if you didn't change anything with nutrition, it's automatically going to be a lot tighter. You would have lost a lot of body fat around the midsection, and it'll be very, very noticeable. Now, when it comes to nutrition, the best way to obviously reveal your abs, I mean, you're going to need to put yourself in a calorie deficit at some point to get leaner. Now, I don't always recommend this if you're new to training. I never ever like to put people straight into a calorie deficit. I like to build their metabolism up first. I like to lock them in. I like to try, it doesn't always happen, to lock people in for, say, at least 2 to 3 months. So I can get them tracking their calories and figure out what's going on there and what kind of foods they're eating. But initially, I like to get them to eat a decent amount of calories and just focus on building muscle. Because if you go into too much of a calorie deficit at the start because you want to get leaner, then guess what? You're not going to build muscle as fast. You're going to put your body under a little bit too much stress. And then over time, you're not going to get that midsection tighter. It's going to take a lot longer because, in fact, you're going to slow your metabolism. You're not going to be supercharging your metabolism like you would be if you did it the correct way of just focusing on eating enough protein, eating healthy foods, lifting weights properly. Boom, those things alone are gonna dial in the midsection a bit. But yeah, once you've you've done a good few weeks of lifting weights and you feel good, you built some muscle, then you can put yourself into a calorie deficit. So you need to be essentially burning more calories than what you're eating in order to lose body fat, right? To get leaner. Now, I'm not going to go too much into detail because I don't want to confuse you, but you need to be eating a sufficient amount of protein. Now, again, it depends on the person, but generally, if I've got someone lifting weights with me, doing a couple of PT sessions a week, or even if it's an online client, I'll get them following. If it's an online client, I'll get them following my program, which is it's a 9-week program. The first one is, and it'll take you through 3 different phases of lifting weights. And then what you're going to get out of that is you're going to be building muscle, obviously. But then if you dial the nutrition in and you eat sufficient protein, now again, it's going to depend, like I said, on the person. But you want to generally, I try and get people to target 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight to start with, and then I can alter it as we go when necessary. So yeah, if you can aim for like 1 gram, I always go in pounds. I don't know why I do. It's the American way, but 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. If you can average that, over the space of a week. So let's just say you're averaging per day. If you're weighing in at around in kilos, let's just say like 60 kilos, okay, then there's 2.2 pounds in a kilo. So what would that be in pounds? 60 kilos, 120 pounds. Let's just say around about, not the best of maths, 140 pounds. So that means you would need to aim for around about 140 grams of protein. Right, that then is going to make sure your body is you got sufficient amino acids to repair the muscle tissue and also to charge your metabolism, because protein takes up a lot of energy to digest. Okay, so that alone is gonna help you lose body fat. But yeah, so you could call it thermogenic. But the bottom line is protein. I'm not going to go into detail as to why it's so effective, because I could be here for forever as to why it's so beneficial. Sorry. But you need a sufficient amount, okay, to reveal that midsection, and then you can manipulate the carbohydrates and the fats. So you can do carb cycling, which is very effective. So, for example, on the days you're not lifting or not doing anything too strenuous, try to reduce your carbohydrate intake and just stick to mainly protein, fats, and fibrous carbohydrates. Now, what I mean by that is like basically plants, so vegetables mainly. So heaps of vegetables with each meal, mainly greens, but lots of different types. And if you have that with some good protein sources, providing you're not a vegetarian, then you can bang in good quality sources of meat, lean red meat, fish, ocean fish. Make sure you get that in pretty regular, like salmon, mackerel, sardines, that kind of thing. Include that with your meals. Obviously, eggs is another source of an egg is just protein and fat. There's no carbs in an egg. So like an omelette, for example, with plenty of greens. That's a simple example of a high protein, high fat meal with fibrous carbs. And now the fiber is going to obviously satiate you, so it's going to keep you fuller for longer. It's going to bulk out, sorry to be crude, but it's going to bulk out your stool, and it's going to slow down the digestion process in order to give you sustained energy. So on the days you don't train or don't do anything strenuous, or if you're not moving much, avoid carbohydrates, especially cereals, pasta, bread. I would try and eliminate them or reduce them anyway, regardless. But even the kind of nutrient dense starchy carbs such as like quinoa, potatoes, sweet potatoes and stuff, try and minimize or eliminate them on those days as well, and go super low carbs, almost like the keto. I don't know if you've heard of that, the ketosis way of eating. I was going to say diet then. I hate that word. I was going to say ketosis diet, but I don't like using that word. So the ketosis way of eating, where you're essentially having this really low carbs, high fats, and sufficient protein. So if you can try and do that, most days, that is going to dial in your midsection. And also, don't forget, carbohydrates, like 1 gram of carbohydrates, will turn into around about 3 grams of water. So if you're holding what you think is body fat around the midsection, a lot of that, sometimes, especially the lower ab, around the waistline where your belly button is, a lot of that is going to be, there's going to be some water retention there as well. So just by reducing carbs, you're going to notice a difference in your midsection, because you're going to shift water. Generally, you're going to shift some fluid away from the midsection. So it's going to reveal your abs more. But in terms of losing body fat, like I said, calorie deficit. So you need to be burning more than you're eating. So if you have a sedentary job, or if you don't generally move enough, I always advise a simple measure. A simple tool. Get yourself a wrist device. A Fitbit is what I use personally, and that'll track how many steps you're doing. Aim to do, let's just say, at least 8,000 steps a day, 8,000 to 15,000 steps a day. It's not a great deal. That's like at least 40 minutes of moving a day, roughly. I think 8,000 steps accumulates to roughly around about 40 minutes of moving a day. So as long as you're moving for at least that time each day, that's going to increase your calorie output. So it's just simple, really, guys. It's pretty straightforward. But number one is building muscle. So on that note, squats and deadlifts are the ultimate 2 exercises for building muscle and, more importantly, building your midsection. If you ask me, in terms of actually shaping your midsection and making your abdominals more prominent, I don't think anything is gonna outdo squats, because it's the king. It's the king. Squats are the king. So if you learn how to squat properly with good technique, or at least reasonably good technique, should I say, that alone is gonna definitely gonna help you progress around the midsection. Because you think about it, you've got the load of the bar on your shoulders, okay, and as you're going down and coming up, you are having to really, if you really focus on actually drawing your stomach in, which is something I've only really applied over the last few months, really suck in that midsection so it's tight before you go down, right? So imagine you've got the bar on your back, okay? What I tend to do is I breathe all the air out, and I'm literally flexing my abs, and I'm holding that in tight, and I'm not releasing that tension until I've come back up. So I'm holding that in as I'm descending down, and I'm driving up. When I stand up, I'll ease off it a bit, and then I'll focus on flexing my bum muscles then at the top of the movement when I extend my legs. Okay, so just those simple tips. You have to really focus on connecting to your abs. Now with the abdominals, it's officially the hardest muscle group to connect with, right? To actually activate your abs and contract them properly it's a task, and it takes time in terms of building the mind-muscle connection. You have to connect with them properly. So, I may have mentioned this before, but lifting weights people don't seem to realize it's literally at least 70% psychological. Okay? You have to be connecting. There's no point, so many people do this as well, and, I used to be one of them back in the day, where you're lifting weights, but you're just doing it willy-nilly. You're not really tuned into the exact muscles you should be activating. Now, when you're doing abs, for example, if you're doing some form of sit-ups, or if you're doing some sort of weighted abdominal exercise, you need to really think about flexing your spine. So you're actually curling your spine. Analogy I like to use, another one, is imagine our back. In our back, I think we have, don't quote me on this, I think we have about 35 different vertebrae bones, right? Now, as you're sitting up and crunching your abs, imagine the vertebrae in your lower spine, especially in your lumbar spine, are like dominoes. Yeah, and one by one, you're boom, 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 knocking down the dominoes. Each vertebrae is curling separately, just like dominoes, if that makes sense. That was a shit explanation. But as you're crunching up, it's like bang, 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 dominoes on the vertebrae. Okay, so it's a slow, steady movement. And then when you come up and you raise your shoulder blades off the mat, so you're flexing your spine and crunching your abs, squeeze the abs and hold it for a second. So you're really applying tension to the abs. Sorry, that was a terrible, that dominoes thing then, that was an old analogy that's just come back to me, and that didn't go down too well. Ignore that. Just focus on tension. Boom. As you crunch the abs, engage and focus on the tension there. And talking about weighted abdominal movements is so important. I mean, the abdominals are no different to any other body part, right? So what I find fascinating is because we, like I've said before, most of us are brainwashed in terms of like doing things correctly in the gym. Now, I see heaps of people doing hundreds of reps or hundreds of crunches and lots of reps on the abs with no weight whatsoever, thinking that is going to get their abs more prominent and build them. That's incorrect, unfortunately. As much as doing bodyweight stuff can be effective for a short period of time, if you're a beginner, nothing is going to trump doing weighted abdominal movements. So, for example, like one of my favorites is crunches with like a medicine ball. So this is on my program anyway, on my Build Your Best Body program. Start off with a light medicine ball. Imagine you're lying down on the mat, arms and legs are extended, so you're lying fully extended with your body, medicine ball in your hands, okay, and then what you're doing is you're crunching, so you're just lifting your shoulder blades off the mat, bringing the ball over, and then tucking your knees into your chest at the same time. So that medicine ball is going over your knees towards your feet, and then you're going back to the starting position, if that makes sense. But that's on my program anyway, and I'll let you know how you can get hold of one of my abdominal programs anyway at the end of this podcast to give you more detail and more videos and stuff. But yeah, my program is the one, because you'll be hitting your abs at least 2-3 times a week, because you'll be doing the whole body every time you train. So it's that frequency, folks. The more often you hit the body parts, the faster they're going to grow and change. And also, like I said, the technical side of it is so important. The mind-muscle connection and doing it properly, which is why my program is so dope, because there's videos of every single exercise from yours truly. So you can't really go wrong. Now, don't get me wrong, genetics does play a part in how your abs are going to look, and having that sexy looking lean midsection. Maybe it's a bit over the top there, sexy looking, but you know what I mean. Having a lean midsection, genetics are going to play a part in that, like I said, in terms of the shape of your abdominals and effectively how they look to the human eye, and how much they stand out ultimately. Your genetics are going to play a part in that, because I've trained people in the past and I've coached people for shows, and some people, I'm not going to name any names obviously, but no matter how lean they get, I mean, I've had one guy, I had him down to on the calipers, he was like 4% body fat. He was inside out shredded, and his obliques, so the muscles on the side of his abdominals, were really, really good and prominent. So from the side, it looked great, but head on, he still didn't have like noticeable abs, although his midsection was shredded and there was virtually no body fat there. You still really couldn't see much of an abdominal wall, and that is genetics, So, but yeah, for the most part, if you focus on giving yourself a bit of time, consistently training your abs, like say 2-3 times a week, not hammering them, just doing one exercise each time you train, and doing it properly, that is going to make them more prominent, and using weight as well. But then building muscle over time, as I say, that's going to melt away any excess body fat you have or any stubborn body fat. So lifting weights is number one. Actually, lifting weights and nutrition, obviously, you need to educate yourself as much as you can on nutrition. And yeah, it's just giving it time. Rome wasn't built in a day. Keep lifting weights, keep building muscle, and watch what happens, really. But genetics does certainly load the gun, if you like, when it comes to an aesthetically pleasing body. It does definitely load the gun, but then that hard work and that self-discipline is what is going to be is going to determine the outcome, really, in terms of building your best body, if you like. So what I'd like to mention as well is like I said, with guys, if they've got stubborn body fat, or if they're not really dialed in with their nutrition, and they they tend to eat more than they burn most of the time, or eating the wrong foods or whatnot, and they have like what we call in the UK a beer belly, or like a belly fat covering the abs. It's not a good place, man or woman. It's not really a good sign if you're holding body fat around the midsection, because let's face it, most of the essential internal organs are located around that area. So if you have excess body fat around that area, then that is a sign that you have internal fat, visceral, however you pronounce it, visceral fat, which is coated around the internal organs, and it's really unhealthy, and it's definitely not good to have, just to be holding body fat around that area, to be honest. So like I always say, you should put health first and forget about, I want shredded abs. Just check yourself, and if you are, I don't mean to be kind of patronizing or shoot anyone down, but I'm here to help, and I'm just making you aware that if you do have body fat around that area, then focus on doing something about it for health purposes, because long term it's not going to do you any favors. You're going to put yourself at risk for all different types of health ramifications going forward. So the main driver for you should be, okay, health. I don't want to be diagnosed with something or put myself in a position where I've compromised my health from simply not really focusing on my health and shifting the body fat around that area. So just be mindful of that, folks, right? And when it comes to, let's face it, most of us want to look good. All right, so you want to look good, we want to feel good. We only get one life. We like to, we need to look after our minds mainly and tune into our health and feel good. We all like to feel good, but we want to look good as well. And as I've said before, if you could make your health a priority, focus on making healthy choices most of the time. Focus on training properly, moving enough, drinking enough water, sleeping enough, most of the time. That's not to say you haven't got a life. Everything else will fall into place. And then, the physique and the midsection will be a byproduct of you looking after yourself. So I know it sounds a bit far-fetched, but take it from me. I've been doing this for a long, long time. And when you get to that level where things are just falling into place, you have abdominals without even thinking about it. You don't have an eating disorder and a major body image issue like I used to have. Obviously, I've still got that. It doesn't go overnight, but the abdominals are there now as a byproduct of looking after myself and not overeating. I still do overeat, maybe once or twice a week, but most of the time, like I said, 70-80%. Well, as I say, 89% of the time, I'm pretty on point with living a healthy lifestyle. So that's the most important thing, really. And as humans, we want to be. It's only natural to want to be, looking attractive in terms of, looking good. And how much want to say this now? We want to look good in terms of the opposite sex. We want to be. All of us. It's an evolutionary thing. We want to look good. We want to feel good when it comes to. Shit, what am I even trying to say here? It's an evolutionary thing, right? So if we go back in time, millions of years ago, now a sign, if you're not carrying much body fat around the midsection and around that area, it's a sign of good health, right? So it is going to be more attractive if you're not holding fat around there, around the abs, or mainly around that area. If you haven't got excess body fat around there, it's a sign of good health, So it does make us more appealing to the opposite sex. Not that really matters to a lot of people, but you know what I'm trying to say here. Most of us like that feel-good factor, so that should be a good driver for you to shift body fat. It's a sign of good health. So that alone is a good indication. So that was a bit of a weird rant, but there we go. It's very, very different when you haven't got anyone to conversate with on a podcast and bounce back and forth. But it's like you just sat here talking to yourself. Very interesting experience, but I'm always up for a challenge. But yeah, another thing is rotational movements as well. So I was talking about obliques, and there's nothing better than good set of obliques. So you know the muscles on the side of your waistline. If you look from the side, you have like you'll have the obliques, right? And now they look great when you have prominent obliques, but more importantly, in order to keep stop you from getting injured and keep your core healthy, if you like, and strong, because let's face it, later down the line, strength is so important, people. Please don't neglect it. We're talking about the core. Having a strong core is going to mitigate any kind of ailments going forward, any injuries, or it's going to make you a lot less prone to getting injured and putting your back out and putting yourself out of action if you're doing functional rotational movements. So, for example, twisting movements. Now, I don't know if any of you have used like a pulley machine or like resistance bands or anything like that, but just twisting from side to side. For example, I'll try and explain it now. Pulley machines, you know, like the cable fly machines in the gym. If you set one of them up, so you've just got one handle connected to it, and it's like in line with your chest, the handle is. Grab the handle with both hands. Okay, so put one hand on the handle, and then seal the other hand with the other hand. If that makes sense. So you've just got two hands gripping it tight. Keep the arms straight and just rotate right the way around. So twist right round with a light weight and draw the stomach in as you're doing it. And that is then going to work the obliques and all the intrinsic core muscles, which are really important. And, you know, like I said, for strength and for health, but it's gonna change the way your waistline looks as well. Because although you be building muscle, if you're using, because this is another myth which absolutely destroys me, is like doing weighted abs is gonna make your waist bigger. And it's like, really, how much bigger is your waist gonna grow from doing weighted abs? Right? If you get yourself lean and you shift the body fat, most of the body fat around there, all that's going to happen is going to make your abs look much more prominent and leaner, and it's going to give you more of a leaner, healthier look. Even if you did build them a tiny bit, like let's say a millimeter, which would take ages, by the way, just to get any growth around that area, you're still going to look, your waist is still going to look smaller. So ignore the bullshit you hear women talking about, these Insta famous women on Instagram saying, oh, you know, weighted abs are bad. They make your abs bigger. They make your waist bigger. Absolute bullcrap. Cod shit. Seriously. Weighted abs is the way forward. But what I would say, before you dive into doing weighted abs, focus on core stability. So especially if you've ever experienced back problems, which is very common, you need to build the core stability first. So start doing, you know, like the planks, 4 planks, pelvic floor bridges, quadrupeds. Quadruped is when you're on all fours on the mat and you raise one arm up so it's straight, and you raise the opposite leg straight and extend both of them. Draw your stomach in and just repeat that. But yeah, I have an abdominal program anyway. So like I said, if you want to drop me an email, martinsilva@hotmail.co.uk, I can fire that over to you. It only costs like £10. How much? It was like £6, about $10 Aussie dollars, so about £7 or something like that. It's only cheap. So find me over a message and I'll get that over to you. That'll help you learn more about the correct exercise to do with the correct technique. So yeah, and that's pretty much a wrap. I hope I've dropped some knowledge bombs there, and I hope I haven't confused matters too much. Quite a lot of info there. Just purely talking about abs. But yeah, take it from me, I didn't even train abs properly, even when I was doing shows. Like the first couple of shows I done, I didn't even train my abs. And my abs still looked pretty good on stage. You know, they were still shredded and prominent. And that's simply because I dialed in the nutrition and reduced my body fat right down to a seriously low level. And you know, that is what's going to reveal your abdominal wall. But in terms of making your abs look more prominent, even at higher body fat percentages, so even if you don't change anything with your diet, if you train abs properly, you know, to a certain extent, if you're carrying lots of body fat, you're not going to see shit, unfortunately, as harsh as that may sound. But when your body fat starts dropping, your abs will be more prominent at higher body fat percentages if you're training them correctly. So, above all, that abdominal program is good to teach you the basics and my favorite exercises. But my training program, Build Your Best Body, 9-week training program, it will absolutely change the game for you. Let me tell you now. So, and if it doesn't, I'll give you your money back. How about that? So, yeah, if you go over to my Instagram and just click the link in my bio, it's on there. Click the link. It'll bring up my blog explaining what the program is. Scroll to the bottom and you can purchase the plan there. Guaranteed results or your money back. If you haven't got Instagram, just head over to my website. It's www.martin-silva.co.uk. So go check that out. And it's all on my website. So that's pretty much it. That is a wrap. I just wanted to say one more thing. Above all is try, I know it's very hard, but try not to focus too much on looking and how you look and looking at your abs all the time and looking at areas which you're not happy with and comparing yourself to other people as Andrew and I cleared up on the last podcast. You know, looking at your social media platform and comparing yourself to other people, and it just really screws your head up. And I can tell you now, you're setting yourself up for failure in the future, because you're never gonna be satisfied if you continuously compare yourself to others and constantly weighing yourself and looking in the mirror all the time to see results. It's perfectly normal to check yourself out from time to time. Obviously, I do that, as all you know, as everyone knows, based on my Instagram, but nowhere near as frequently now. So just try and focus on, like I said, doing focusing on health and making healthy choices and trying to integrate training as part of a healthy lifestyle, rather than busting your balls and chasing your tail, doing crazy crazy CrossFit, I was going to say then, crazy kind of CrossFit training and high intensity stuff. And, like you go on YouTube and you'll say 3-minute abs or 5-minute abs, or, 2 weeks this, 1 week that. You've got to veer away from that and focus on the long-term, bigger picture, right? So the starting point for you would be to get my training program, 9-week plan, build your best body. And click the link in my bio and you'll get it. So I hope that was handy. And thank you very, very much for tuning in. Please, 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 can you give this podcast a 5-star rating and a review on iTunes? It will be a massive help. Seriously, I'm really trying to grow this podcast, and to be honest, it ain't going to grow unless I get those reviews in. So please, 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 if you can do that, that would be great. And please leave me your email address either way. Send me over your email address. Send me over your email address on Instagram, drop me a DM, or just fire it over via email. Just send me an email and I'll have your address, and I'll add that to my list, and I'll send you out free content then. So you'll get free information, nutrition, fitness, abs, you name it, you'll get it. All right, thank you for tuning in, and stay tuned for the next one, because I have a very influential figure here coming onto my podcast next week. She goes by the name of Nude Nutritionist on Instagram. Her name is Lindy Cohen. If you go and check her out on Instagram now, Nude, Nude _nutritionist. She's going to be on my podcast next week, and I'm super excited because she is like next level when it comes. She's a nutritionist. She's all about health, and she's just going to be a great person to have on the show. So thank you very much. Stay tuned for the next one. Peace and love.